Football Fantasy.
Hello and welcome to Keepers. I'm Matt Ufford, and I'm certified by the Fantasy Football Association of America to give out fantasy advice. Just kidding. There's no governing body for fantasy football. Anyone who claims to be an expert is just someone who plays fantasy football a lot. But keep watching. I'll do what I can to verify your hunches and allay your fears for Week 12. Start Eli Manning versus Dallas. In half the Cowboys games, they've allowed a QB to throw over 390 yards on them, including Manning back in Week 1. Even if he tosses a couple interceptions, something he's cut down on in recent weeks, he'll pile up big fantasy points against a banged-up Cowboys D. Sit Antonio Brown if you have some depth at wideout. No indictment on Brown, who's one of the NFL's leading receivers. I'm giving the yellow light here strictly because of Joe Hayden, who just ended A.J. Green's 5-game 100-yard streak by holding him to 7 yards on 2 catches last Sunday. Lousy weather plus maybe the best corner in the NFL equals look for better options. Start Pierre Thomas, especially in PPR leagues. Thomas has had at least 80 yards from scrimmage in each of his last 6 games, and he's second on the team in receptions. And this week, the Saints get Atlanta, a defense that just made Bobby Rainey look like Adrian Peterson. Sit Denarius Moore, facing the Titans' 7th-ranked pass D. Moore will face Alteron Werner and a Tennessee secondary that surrendered a league-low 7 TDs through the air all year, and only 2 of those were to wide receivers. Gird your McLoins and temper your expectations. Start Brandon Myers. He's been disappointing this year with only 26 catches, but I like the matchup. He caught 7 passes for 66 yards in his only score of the year against Dallas in Week 1, and that was with a healthy Sean Lee. In Monty Kiffin's Tampa 2, the middle linebacker has the lion's share of responsibility for containing tight ends, especially down the seam. With Lee out, don't be surprised if Myers gets some big gains down the middle of the field. Sit Matt Ryan, who's tossed 9 picks in his last 4 games. That's going to be a tough trend to reverse against a Saints squad that gives up the 3rd fewest fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks, and just stifled Tony Romo and Colin Kaepernick in consecutive weeks. Last week's advice was largely reliable thanks to a double sit of CJ Spiller and Fred Jackson, a start of Ben Tate, and sitting Colin Kaepernick, who averaged just 4 yards per attempt for the 2nd straight week. Thanks, Colin. My only real misses, telling you to start Riley Cooper and Mike Wallace. And that's my fault. I should know better than to bet on Mike Wallace. We all should. Friends don't let friends start Mike Wallace, and I'm sorry for violating that code. Buy low on Le'Veon Bell. The Steelers only have 1 game left against a team with a winning record, and all of their remaining games are outdoors somewhere between Baltimore and Green Bay. Bad weather. Expect plenty of carries for the 244-pound sledgehammer. Sell high on Ray Rice. Nah, I don't buy his performance against the Bears D for a second. Take away his 47-yard run, which would have been a touchdown for a younger, healthier Rice, and he would have only had 3.5 yards per carry against one of the worst run defenses in the league. He's going to go right back to sucking against the Jets' top-ranked run D. Flip him. Buy low on the Dolphins' defense. They've rounded back into form since Cameron Wake returned to full health, allowing fewer than 20 points per game over their last 3 games. The remaining slate includes 3 rookie quarterbacks and just 1 explosive offense, the Patriots, who they get at home. Sell high on the Giants' defense. I don't buy any of this talk about the defense has suddenly become stingy. The opposing quarterbacks during their 4-game win streak have been Scott Tolzien, an injured Terrell Pryor, Matt Barkley, and Josh Freeman in a historically awful performance. Forget the 3 interceptions Tolzien threw. He also completed over 70% of his passes, averaged 10 yards per attempt, and didn't get sacked. Now look at the rest of New York's schedule. The worst quarterback they face is probably RG3. Sell, sell, sell. There's a good chance of snow in Cleveland this weekend, and even if it happens to clear up by Sunday, it's still going to be cold with a high of 25 degrees and winds around 20 miles per hour. Look for the Steelers and Browns to focus on short passes and running the ball, especially considering the solid pass defense of each team. As I mentioned earlier, Le'Veon Bell is an easy start, but I'd also favor Chris Ogbenaya in PPR leagues. Hire Jericho Cotchery and fire Lance Moore. Cotchery's come out of nowhere to be Big Ben's favorite red zone target, scoring 7 touchdowns, all of which have come from within the opponent's 20-yard line. Meanwhile, Lance Moore has spent this entire season either injured or a victim of Drew Brees spreading the ball around. Great for the Saints, not so much for fantasy owners. Hire Donald Brown and fire Darren McFadden. Thanks to Trent Richardson's ineffectiveness, the Colts are finally giving Brown more of a chance to show what he can do. He rewarded them with 80 yards and a couple of scores in Week 11. In Oakland, Rashad Jennings has basically done more since Week 9 than McFadden has all year. So even if McFadden gets healthy, don't expect much. Darren McFadden getting healthy. Hire Nate Burleson and fire Hakeem Nicks. Burleson's close to returning from his pizza-related injury and sliding back into the Lions' top non-Megatron receiver role. He's a nice late-season pickup. As for Nicks, he's great if you want 4 catches for 50 yards every week. He hasn't scored since week 14 last year, and I recommend dropping him simply because it feels good. It's like giving your fantasy team a juice cleanse. That is all for week 12 of Keepers, your outdoor activity of the week, living somewhere warm so you can wear shorts while you barbecue. Did you not see the weather report I did for Cleveland? A high of 25. Do you have any idea how nice it is in Arizona right now? Dude, people of Ohio, you don't have to live there. All right, that should be good for some hate mail. Set your lineups. See you next week.